shooting this thing? I hate guns. My hair. He shot my hair.
Depot Devoid.
Depot Devoid!
How was that?
Depot Devoid.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, to our hypothetical listeners, you will hypothetically notice that my voice sounds a little strange. It's because I'm super sexy and also have a cold.
Is it a cold or is it the vid?
It is Spaceballs, the virus.
I like it. It's good.
So my name is Matt Fagan.
Prove it.
This is my brother who has demanded that I show my ID. But I'm not afraid of his bouncer, and I've already bribed them.
Well, shit. I guess my name's probably Ted Fagan.
Probably. But are we really going to go on probability here?
There's always...
What is this, Spaceballs, the statistics class?
You gotta have some deniability. That's actually something that one of my coworkers didn't have last week when she got shit canned.
Oh, exciting drama.
That's what happens when you start stealing the cash deposits.
Oh, that's like probably the dumbest way you can get fired.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious.
There's not in most situations there's not a way to just do that without it being pretty obvious.
Yeah, I was honestly surprised that it took them like 2.5 months to actually can her when I knew what was going on, but I guess
that's ridiculous.
Not everybody else is kind of completely aware of things when they're happening. They're like, oh, that deposit went missing? Why?
Yeah, that's nobody really takes that in stride.
Yeah. It's
under
$100 million company, and you'd think that they probably are going to be like, hey, that first deposit was only $1,800 and something, but you gotta go.
Yeah, that's wow, impressive. Now, does that mean that you have to do their job too?
I have to do some of it. One of my other coworkers is picking up a lot more of it than I am because she's the one who actually, I am the backup to the one who got fired, but the person who trained her is going to now have to train another person. I'm the backup. I don't know that job enough to reasonably train somebody.
Right.
Hell, I was getting trained by the person who got fired while she was still getting trained.
Yeah, they probably weren't planning on having to lose her before you were trained.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what you get for having faith in your employees.
Yeah, it's kind of silly like that, but I appreciated it. I think it's a good thing to remove people that are doing that, and I also don't like having to sign off on stuff when I'm like, bitch be stealing. I know you be stealing, bitch.
Yeah.
And she's like, here, count the cash. I'm like, that's the right amount. It's not gonna be later.
Oh no.
But yeah, hey, that's what you get.
Well, at least they're gone.
Exactly.
I had to start working again this week after many weeks off for the remodel, which was amazing and enabled us to have a great Halloween. So I went back to work and immediately got sick, which is fantastic. I had today, this is my natural weekend now, so because I just went back to my old schedule. So I get today and tomorrow off, which is nice because I had to work yesterday and I probably shouldn't have. And then I was up all night with the coughing and the occasional barfing, which was pretty fun. Actually, this was kind of a weird day overall. So I'm gonna before we actually get into the comedy, so I don't immediately deflate it, I'm going to tell you where I'm at right now. Because I was going, here's my plan was, because I watched Spaceballs last night, just sort of watched it with Bill. intending to then watch it again this morning and take a few notes and actually like, pay a little more attention than just, fan watching the movie. But we went camping a few weeks ago, and while we were up there, the doctor, my dog, the doctor, started limping. He seemed to have like had a sprain. I've been giving him aspirin. He's been getting a little better. A couple days ago, he sort of re-injured it a little bit, and kind of was a big setback. And last night he was acting like really anxious, and like his heart was racing, and it was just like, so this morning we took him to the vet, and they did an x-ray, and my assumption, I'm going here thinking like our worst case scenario is that like, he's got some sort of weird fracture or like a muscular detachment, something sort of potentially extreme, but like, probably not, not too big of a deal. And so imagine my surprise when the doctor said, I'm pretty sure he has bone cancer in his shoulder. Ooh. So that was my 9 o'clock this morning.
Yeah.
And so I ended up not taking notes. I did a lot of crying and processing and trying not to draw any conclusions yet. It's not absolute, although pretty sure.
Yeah.
He got a steroid shot, and we started him on like there's some anti-inflammatories and some pain meds, and we're going to go back for another x-ray in about 3 weeks after this course of medicine is done, and they'll sort of see what it looks like then. But basically there's a reality that we're going to have to face now, and so that was kind of not great.
No, and he's a bigger dog, and he's what, 12?
He's 12 and a half approximately. And this is his left shoulder, and so it's and his left hip is the one that has hip dysplasia.
Yeah.
So that whole side is just like not working right. So all of the effort to walking on the left side has to go on his bad hip, because he's putting less and less weight on the arm. So it sucks, and he's super unhappy about it. But hopefully the meds and the anti-inflammatories and the pain medication, like he zonked out like when we got home, and I gave him the first tramadol, and he just slept for like 4 hours before he even got up and had a drink of water. He's been pretty chill. So this is the first time that he looked like he was really resting in a few days. So hopefully in a couple of days we'll kind of see how he's looking, and with luck he will at least not be in extreme discomfort, and then we will see. But I am not like doing great about that. And
no, I can imagine.
Which I actually like, part of me thought that I like should just say let's not do this, but then I was like, you know what, I would rather like have something to talk about that might take my mind off of this. So I will try not to constantly drag the conversation to really sad dog stuff.
I get it. And
but
now we're going to have to talk about a Mog. So
right,
we can't even disconnect ourselves from dog
town. And I'm afraid that that will be my go-to, though, if I ever think that you are maybe getting too funny, or if the conversation about comedy is too exhilarating, then I will say dog cancer, and then we will all cry.
No. That'll be a good safe word.
I because of this unusual situation, I am recording in a different location.
I've noticed.
So I am in the living room, so that my fellows are not alone in here. And Bill just voiced a rather strenuous objection to my intention to use that particular safe word. Oh, and well, why shouldn't he? He's not a Fagan.
Yeah, we get to play this way.
But see, it's nice to have a little dark comedy because I've mostly just been super sad all day. So
Yeah.
this is a little bit better to be able to be relatively snarky about it a little bit, even though I may not be truly feeling it in my heart of hearts.
Yeah, that's the way that it goes. I get it.
So yeah, it's been a really weird day. And because I'm sick, I also like I didn't sleep that well, and I was like up several times, coughing and barfing. And so this whole like it was really disorienting. Like I sort of woke up, like the only thing, like I slept really hard for like an hour and a half from like 6:30 to 8. And then I woke up and all I had was like this absolute intent to go to the vet. and then it became this weird roller coaster.
You didn't even go to the people doctor.
No, gross. Who needs them?
Yeah, they're dumb.
So do you have any horrible, sad news that you would like to share to ruin the comedy before we get into it?
No, I'm doing great. I mean, that coworker of mine got fired, and it's good.
I mean, you could make something up, or you could like wish tragedy upon someone.
Well, I mean, I don't have to wish tragedy upon them because they already got fired.
Oh, so basically, it would be just a very different conversation if we had managed to do the recording last week.
Yeah.
And not only because it would have been a different movie.
There is also that, yeah.
The reason that I suddenly decided that we should do Spaceballs is because, as you know, our store got remodeled, and the door to the employees only back room area now has one of those keypads to get in, and the temporary code was 12345, and I heard it in Dick Van Patten's voice
As it should
every
be.
single time I entered the code, and it just got me thinking about Spaceballs.
Yeah, one of my coworkers, he's a big fan of Spaceballs, and back on what was Ian's cubicle, they made these cubicle dividers back in big COVID times out of like gridiron steel and then plexiglass.
Nice.
So it's like sort of dividers, but you can see right through them. And so
Right.
there's like a Spaceballs bumper sticker on Ian's cubicle back there, and Brian's got a couple of Spaceballs stickers on his. And one day I realized I must have passed the test of being a good person, because one day towards the end of the day, he just walks over and sticks a bumper sticker of Spaceballs on my cubicle.
Nice.
So, all right, I win too.
That's excellent.
I approve.
When it was the summer after my freshman year of high school, I spent a few weeks staying with our Uncle Jim in California. And it was when I was there that I purchased the VHS of Spaceballs and brought it back and gave it to you and Ian. And that was one of the first movies that was watched so many times that I just couldn't for a really long time. It was mainly that and Godzilla 1985. That was entirely down to you.
Yeah, I did that.
Were obsessed.
It was
with
amazing.
Godzilla
You know what?
1985.
I haven't seen it in so long that I barely remember anything about it, which is
You
pretty
should
funny.
watch it again, and we should actually, if we can find it. There's the Japanese and American cuts are really similar, but it's called The Return of Godzilla, and it is in fact like a superior story. And I think that it would be delightful if you could actually find a copy of that to see at some point too. But they're both like they're very watchable. I was just
Right.
like so burned out after a while.
Now with Spaceballs, I hadn't seen it in probably a decade, and then when Vincent was about 5 years old, he was at Target with his mom, and he's like, "We have to get this for Dad. Dad has to have this." And it's like, he hadn't even seen it, and I was like, well, he knew that must be for me. And it was great. And I of course have seen it so many times,
Right.
but I still knew absolutely every line to the film, and it was great. Just
It's
watching it being like,
extremely quotable.
it is. It's a true masterpiece.
That it's also funny to think about how it's been around so long now that like one of my I work with a number of people in their 20s, and I brought up the combination thing at work, and this guy I work with who's like 21 or 22, like he was the only one there who really knew, so like everyone was sort of aware of it. He's the only one who had actually seen Spaceballs, and
Lord.
he recounted how he saw it when he was really young, so obviously before he saw Alien, and so he knew that scene from Spaceballs, not from Alien. So that's just like, well, yeah, because when I gave you guys that tape, that you were probably what, 5 or 6?
Yeah, I would have been 6.
So yeah. And just like to watch that backwards. I mean, at that point, like people are, I mean, they're going to see Spaceballs before Star Wars.
Yeah, no, and it was amazing to me when I saw that the first time, when I saw Alien the first time, because it was like, oh fuck, it's the same dude.
That's
great.
One of the best gags, not just because they actually have John Hurt playing the character again, who actually saying, "Oh no, not again,
not again." So
he's so game for doing that. I love it. But I would say, like, okay, first of all, let's say, like, how are you a big Mel Brooks fan in general, or?
In general, yes. Although I haven't seen his works in a long time. Like Dracula Dead and Loving It, I only ever saw it once and never gave it another go. But I
don't think I would have either.
I've been informed that it's actually better than my recollection.
Really? No one's ever told me that.
Yeah. I think our brother told me that even. And he was the one who shut it down that one time that I watched it, and he was like, "This is dumb," and then he was like, "You got to check it out again."
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, and he can't deny this.
I'm trying to remember honestly if I have ever seen that one, because I started to check out on Mel Brooks after Robin Hood Men in Tights.
Right.
And I like my knowledge of his filmography like largely falls apart after that. I think I saw Life Stinks on TV once.
Never heard of it.
I don't even remember what it's about. In general, I'm a fan of Mel Brooks, but there's really only there's a handful of Mel Brooks movies that are actually in my rotation, and
he was involved in The Producers, right?
That's his first. So that's a brilliant movie. Like I would say that Spaceballs is his third best movie. It's The Producers, it's Young Frankenstein, and it's Spaceballs. Those are the absolute highlights of his career. And I realize people have a great deal of fondness for Blazing Saddles, and nothing against Blazing Saddles. It is a hard sell in 2023 for the obvious reason. It's a really good movie, but I don't have a desire to rewatch it to oblivion the way I do some of his other stuff.
You put rape on your resume twice. I like rape.
I really, if I want to revisit Blazing Saddles, I just watch Madeline Kahn singing "I'm Tired," and then I'm satisfied.
Which is a beautiful scene.
It is, and I really don't need any other part of that movie to get my fix. Because that's perfect. That's just enough, and it's Madeline Kahn. Fucking who doesn't love Madeline Kahn? So yeah, for me, it's those three, and The Producers is amazing. Gene Wilder in that movie just fucking kills me.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic.
But he is, for the most part, a pretty good parodist. He doesn't do parody all the time, but like Spaceballs is one of the more straightforward film parodies out there, really, and it doesn't like the jokes don't rely on an exhaustive knowledge of the source material. Like I think that
not at all.
like you can absolutely enjoy Spaceballs without knowing Star Wars. You just like there are just more jokes to get if you do know Star Wars.
Well, and there's also like the wonderful little odd jokes that you wouldn't get if you didn't know the obvious intent behind what Mel Brooks was doing. Like he asked George Lucas permission to make the film.
Yes.
And George Lucas gave him permission so long as he did not dress his Lone Star character as Han Solo. And so George Lucas dressed him as freaking Indiana Jones,
which is amazing. I love it. Yes, that's so good. And that's one of those things that I always forget, and sometimes I don't even notice because the characters are so obviously interchangeable.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But yeah, that was a brilliant decision. And George Lucas loved the movie too.
Yeah,
he does have a sense of humor. Like it's not obvious from his movies, but he does have one. But yeah, the thing that I found really interesting about Spaceballs is how, well, like watching it again, is that a lot of the jokes, there are a lot of jokes that are really specific to the period, but they don't rely on your understanding the thing that inspired the joke in the first place. Like the one thing that comes to mind is okay, so when Lone Star is on the intercom with Pizza the Hut, there's the robot guy, like the robot gangster that he talks to first, who works for Pizza the Hut, which is a live action gangster dressed version of Max Headroom that's doing the same like facial twitches and stuff, clearly inspired by Max Headroom. But it doesn't matter. Like if you watch that in 2023, having probably never heard of Max Headroom, that doesn't matter. It just becomes part of the sort of silly sci-fi world building. It's the fact that the thing that started the joke is not part of your consciousness doesn't matter. And I think that that's one of the reasons that this comedy largely holds up, is because it's parody, but it's like it still works even without that aspect.
It's a genius film. It was done in a very great way that makes it work no matter what setting it's in. And it's not gross and pervy. It doesn't have anything really nasty going on.
No, it's generally like it's still pretty inoffensive. Like there are jokes that, like, like with anything from 20-30 years ago, there are jokes you probably would choose not to do today. But they're still not like really mean spirited, and there's more Jew jokes than anything else, which are all written by Mel Brooks because he likes to do that. But there's not, for the most part, like there's no Blazing Saddles problem.
It would not have been a PG-13 movie if it wasn't made in the late 80s, though, because in the late 80s, you could be a PG-13 movie and still have one fuck.
Is it a PG-13 movie, or is it just PG?
Shit, I don't know.
I think it might have been like retconned, but I think it's a PG movie that like doesn't pass that test now.
We're right. You could have one fuck in a PG movie.
That's what I thought. Yeah. There's a lot of shits in this movie too.
Oh yeah, I mean, you can have all the shits you want.
Well, and there's 80s. there's an entire squadron of characters named Asshole.
No, what's his name? That is his name. Asshole. Major Asshole.
Major Philip Asshole.
And who's that? That's his cousin. Gunner's mate, first class Philip Asshole.
This is one of my favorite sort of 80s silly comedies, like, and it's really like generally pretty wholesome, a little dirty, but like in a there's no victims really, the only people
who my
are
virgin alarm. It's programmed to go off before you do.
I love it. Joan Rivers and Laureen Yarnell as the body of Dot Matrix. I bring that up because for some reason I keep seeing things with her in them. she was a I mean, to the extent that there can be a famous mime, she was one.
All right.
She was part of a duo called Shields and Yarnell in the 70s. Big in the 70s? I don't know, ish.
As big as a mime can get.
Yeah, big enough for me to remember who they are, sort of. I don't remember Shields and Yarnell. I remember Lorene Yarnell because she was in one of my favorite episodes of the Linda Carter Wonder Woman show, where she played a woman who could mentally control ants.
That'd be cool.
Oh yeah, they were. I mean, she was actually a very powerful character. You can bring buildings down.
Yeah,
and she did
bring them up,
and did crazy like posing and tooth gnashing because she's a mime.
As
I mostly remember her teeth. Her teeth made a big impression on me in my childhood.
That's fun.
My entire identity was formed by watching Wonder Woman and the Bionic Woman, and the things that struck me in those shows.
I don't know. I got a lot of freaking Perry Mason over at Grandma and Grandpa's house there, and plenty of Matlock with Papa.
Well, you would love Perry Mason because he was in Godzilla 1985.
That doesn't surprise me.
Because he was in Raymond Burr was edited into the American release of the original Godzilla.
And
so they brought him back to edit
really
him
silly
the American
and funny
release of Godzilla 1985.
Nice.
And his character name, Steve Martin.
Okay, why not? It's about as good as John Smith.
No one would remember that if it weren't for Steve Martin.
That's true. All right, so this movie starts out with a very, 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 very long scene of like almost Jaws music. Yep. As this ship goes by. And then we pan to the back of the ship with a bumper sticker of I brake for no one?
We brake for no one.
Great. It's great.
I want to know how big that model actually was. I'm very curious. It's got a lot. It's clearly it's a kit bash where you build your structure and then you just cover it with little things from models. But it's so intricate that like it's the thing has to be pretty freaking big. Like it's obviously photographed at a series of angles to make it seem longer, but it's not small.
No, definitely not. And of course it is a Mel Brooks movie, and this is definitely a penis-shaped robot ship. Gotta love it. I mean, who doesn't need a
Spaceball 1?
Yep. And then we move into the ship where we see everybody and get to meet the main baddies, which is lovely. I miss
Rick Moranis.
Rick Moranis is great.
He was one of the most fantastic faces of the 80s. Such a fun guy. Seemed like he would probably be a delight to know. His disappearance from the scene, it was a tragedy.
It was, but I understand why he did it.
Yes, yeah. I mean, famously, he left show business when his wife passed to raise his children, and he made the right decision. But I still miss the guy. He's in Ghostbusters, he's in Little Shop of Horrors, like he's like in such like standout roles, and his role as Dark Helmet in Spaceballs is unforgettable. He is so fucking funny.
It's perfect. It's this
Honey,
imposing...
I Shrunk the Kids. God.
Yeah. Now this imposing figure that walks in and has a tie that is also quite clearly a cock and balls, and is still a frightening looking creature, and then he opens it up and there's Rick Moranis.
Until I actually saw this movie, like I didn't see it in the theater. and I watched it many times on old TVs until I saw it in high def. I don't think I ever realized it. Like it's like spandex leggings that it's a very like, it's sort of Edwardian, like he's got like little puffy pants and like spandex leggings and I think a spandex top too underneath that. Like it's the look became sillier once I could see it better.
Yes,
And
it did.
I definitely appreciate it.
It's so good, and they make a wonderful, they do a wonderful job of making the bad guys so obviously inept, and it's comedic
They're
to think
gloriously incompetent.
yeah, it's comedic to think that they would actually be capable of achieving even what they have already.
Are there
And
any actual evil people aboard Spaceball One, or is it
No.
just all idiots? Like,
it's all idiots doing dumb shit.
is there an emperor figure from Star Wars that's sort of missing from this movie that would explain how they managed to actually be in charge of anything?
No, I mean it's just it's a poorly managed corporation with people that are just telling lies from the top down and not knowing what's going on. It's just bad business is what they are, and their tactics are all sorts of pathetic, but it's really entertaining to watch and see them like, oh, thanks for the call and not reversing the charges. they them snorting a can of hairy air. It's so good.
I mean, I one of the things that I love about Mel Brooks is that he will do smart jokes and stupid jokes and like not pretend that one is better than the other.
No, and then there's like, he obviously got an idea in his head about beaming, and he really wanted to play that stupid scene that had absolutely no bearing on the show, but he just thought it was funny to teleport somebody with their head on
It's not even
back.
part of Star Wars.
No, it's not. It's Star
That's
Trek.
from a
You have to throw
completely
it
different
in there.
show.
Why didn't somebody tell me my ass was so big? Why the hell would it went in there because he thought it was good and funny. You gotta wonder if there's other scenes from it that are wonderful, which I should be able to find since I have a DVD of it probably on there.
I've probably watched those at some point, but I don't recall them. I'm sure there's a lot of great material that couldn't make the final cut because it can't go on forever.
Oh yeah, did you ever see UHF deleted scenes?
It's been a long time, but I've watched them before.
I enjoyed it because Weird Al is just talking about how they had all these different subplots, like the bad guy, the head of the thugs had a fear of bugs, and so they have this big long,
I do
all
remember
these
that.
different scenes of that, and then eventually they steal the briefcase full of money, but it was one that had Otto. I think Otto was the name of the science show guy. Had
Philo.
Philo. Yeah, it had Philo's bug collection in it, and they drive away with it, and they're like, we got all the money, and they open up the briefcase, and it's full of bugs, and he freaks out and
Supplies.
messes them all up, and they drive off a bridge, and they go down into a canyon, and they die.
Oh, that's a little darker in tone than a lot of that movie was.
Yeah, no, I that was one of the things that Weird Al was saying. He's like, we literally had no idea what we were doing when we made this movie, and there are probably dozens of hours of cut footage. So rather than showing more of it to you, I'm just going to play it all in super fast. It's great. Why not? Have fun with it. Know that you made a mistake, and you managed to cobble it into a really funny movie.
It is one of the finest films out there. Another great
Joe
film
Miller.
of the 80s.
Oh, Joe Miller, you are a lucky little boy because you found the marble in the oatmeal. You know what that means? You get to drink from the fire hose. Are you ready? Yeah.
Oh, good stuff. I wish that he would do another one.
Yeah. He's had some good cameos and stuff, though.
Oh, sure. And I mean, obviously, Weird, the Al Yankovic story is that's incredible. But I would still just love a completely straight UHF sequel just for no reason.
Yeah, but we wouldn't be
the
able
world
to have
doesn't
Stanley
need one.
Spadowski.
Yeah, that would probably not work as well.
We could kill him.
But but Pamela Finkelstein is the head of SAG-AFTRA. I mean, she can surely get this thing going.
Yeah, there we go. It'll be fun. Anyway.
Yeah, you wouldn't want Victoria Jackson either. She's a fucking lunatic now.
Which one's that?
The one from Saturday Night Live who played his girlfriend Terry.
Oh. She went
far
down the rabbit hole.
She's Florida cop wife. She was going down that rabbit hole before there was even a proper rabbit hole to go down. Like she was one of those people who was talking about being canceled by Hollywood for her super homophobic views, before that was a thing. Yeah,
in fact, we could praise her for bringing the canceling to the table.
No, I think she may have helped provide a template for how people whine about those things. I don't know if the world needed that.
So is it a pre-Karen situation? The proto-Karen?
I don't think there has ever been a pre-Karen situation. They just have different names throughout time. But no, she's become one of those people who's she became an anti-gay rights activist in the 90s. She was she was going against the flow a little bit. She was carving her own path. She was marching to the beat of a different drummer.
Yeah. Some people.
Just like our hero Lone Star. Lone Star.
There's only one man who would dare give me the raspberry.
Okay, I've got to say that one of this, I don't know why I appreciate this so much, but the last couple of times I've watched this movie, when they're gonna jam the radar and there's this shot from space of the jam jar being fired at the satellite dish, and this is a practical shot. This is not, they're not doing CG in 1987 or whatever. And it hits and it breaks, and the lid that says jam bounces around and frames itself so beautifully toward the camera to make sure that you understand the joke without being a bitch about it.
Yep.
And I'm how many times did they have to clean this up and shoot that to get this beautiful jam explosion?
It is a very good point. I'd never really thought about that.
Fine filmmaking. That is attention to detail.
That is. They did well. Yeah. Yeah. No, that was the first time I watched it. That was when I knew 100% that there was no way I would ever dislike that movie. The jam starts running down the screen.
It's beautiful, and he fingers it off with his black glove.
Raspberry.
We should take a little break, come back in a moment, and you're gonna have to keep us on track because, like I said, I didn't take those notes that I intended to take.
Well, when we come back, I'll tell you about me.
All right.
We'll be right back.
All right, we'll see you in a minute.
Insert commercials here.
Spaceballs? Oh, shit. There goes the planet.
Hi. Matt here with a little interjection. Not a commercial. But before we continue with the episode, I just wanted to come in and say a little something about the Doctor. Honestly, if I was listening to this episode, I think it would stress me out not knowing what happened, because we recorded this episode a year ago, and I haven't really felt comfortable revisiting it. We recorded this the day that told me that the Doctor had bone cancer in his shoulder, and there was a sort of a treatment plan in place, but that never happened. 11 days after we recorded this episode, Doctor was gone, and it happened fast, and it was really stressful, and we did the best we could, and it was the hardest thing that I ever went through, honestly. And I say that knowing that this is a podcast that Ted and I started together after our brother died, and it's weird to say that this hit me harder. Doctor was my best friend for a long time, and this was really rough, and I miss him a lot, and that's why it was really hard to go back and listen to this episode, and watching the video. It's so obvious that I have been crying all day, because I know exactly what I look like when I've been crying, and that's it. That was an awful day, and it got a lot worse. And then, to the extent that there can be a happy ending, we adopted a dog from the shelter a week after we had to say goodbye to Doctor. And he's wonderful. I mean, he's wonderful, and it's so good to have him here. His name is Gus. He's a hound dog. He's about 4.5 years old now. And we're glad to have him. We really are. And it makes Doctor's absence easier, but it doesn't make me miss him any less. And this episode is dedicated to my best friend, the Doctor. And I hope that this doesn't bring you down too much. Oh, I'm not sorry to do this, honestly, because it was important to me, and I hope that anyone out there who has had to go through this, that you understand why this just has to be part of the story, man, because it always will be for me. And if you've never done this, you're so lucky. But if you've never had a companion that you love like that, then you're not. I was really lucky, and I'm lucky again. I'm gonna fucking go through this whole thing again at some point. And no regrets. I just wish that I had more time with him. It'll never be enough. And now, back to the comedy.
Sir, I'm having trouble with the radar, sir.
What?
I'm having trouble with the radar, sir.
People don't get that
I
joke,
lost
I
the
bet.
sweeps, and I lost the creeps.
The what? And the what?
You know, the bleeps. The sweeps. And the creeps.
Oh, Ollie's lost.
I was curious, so I looked him up last night, and he is still around doing stuff.
I always kind of figured he was dead.
I mean, he's still, I think, primarily known for the sound effects, and most of his comic work probably involves trading on that notoriety.
Yep.
He is the only person whose character appears in the entire Police Academy franchise, like all 7 movies, and the animated series and the TV series. At least 3 things that I listed are things I didn't know existed until yesterday when I looked him up.
I'm pretty sure I lost track out of the first movie. They had Bobcat Goldthwait and being a cop.
Wasn't that the second one?
I think it was the third, but I don't know.
I don't remember.
I actually had a pest control guy when I worked at the homebrew shop who sounded exactly like Bobcat Goldthwait. He taught me how to kill mice so well. He's like,
I mean, you can't just use bait. I mean, what you gotta do is you gotta get your mousetrap, and then you gotta take a little piece of a cotton ball and you dip that cotton ball in peanut butter. That's the thing. They want nesting material and they want food. So you get that piece of cotton ball and you put it on the trap, and there's no fuckers that get right on there. They're not going to be able to just like eat it away because they also want to have it for nesting material. So they're going to yank on it, and it's going to break their fucking neck.
I mean, it sounds plausible.
hey, that's worked so many times.
Did you tell him that he sounded like Bobcat Goldthwait?
No, I said, thank you very much. Now I guess we're going to trade homebrewing ingredients for murdering animals.
There was
Like,
he
that's a
actually
great
Bobcat
trade.
Goldthwait has, I think I might even have like one of his comedy albums, which is, I believe the title is I Don't Mean to Offend You, but You Look Like Bobcat Goldthwait.
I don't like it.
He's
That
actually
is
a pretty
good.
funny comic out of context of his weird movie roles in the 80s.
I honestly don't remember him out of anything other than a movie, except for one instance where he was special guest host of USA Up All Night.
Oh, that's perfect. That makes perfect sense.
Yep.
Up All
no.
Night was good. I saw some good shows on there.
No, yeah, that's the only thing. Yep, that's it.
I really I know him primarily from that Police Academy movie, and of course Shakes the Clown.
I know the name Shakes the Clown.
Shakes the Clown is amazing.
Yeah.
I believe the tagline was if you only see one like violent alcoholic clown movie this year, make sure it's this one.
That's good. I approve.
He's actually he's really very funny in it, and it's, you go into it and you kind of I felt like I knew exactly what it was going to be, but not only was it kind of that, it was also surprisingly more layered and sensitive than I was expecting it to be. And it's kind of a character drama in a way, more than you would think from a movie that contains such lines as, as soon as that camera goes off, he's gonna fuck that little dog.
All right. Well, why the hell not? I'm not the act, just the line.
That line was spoken by I believe the woman who played Aunt Esther on Sanford and Son. She also says, I got that peanut butter pussy, smooth, brown, and easy to spread.
I'll be damned. That's pretty good. Which brings me to the next question. How's your walk with our Lord Jesus Christ?
I did notice that when I was looking back behind me, there were a lot of suspicious areas where there was only one set of footprints.
I'm pretty sure that our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ would be upset if he didn't understand that he was carrying you that whole way.
I'm pretty sure that he was digging down into the sand to fuck sandworms.
I mean, a guy's got to have a pastime, right? You do art, he does sandworms.
That's what I'm going with. That's what I took away from my experiences with our Lord Jesus Christ in the desert.
Oh, I knew that would get us
Speaking of
into
the
some pretty
desert,
fun territory.
there's one in Spaceballs.
And as I said, I would tell you about my experience with watching this movie when we get back to this. And that was I fell asleep when they were driving into the desert.
Oh no.
But I've seen this movie so many times. I had been quoting the hell out of it.
That
all
is
along.
my industrial strength hairdryer.
And I can't live without it.
There's a lot of great gags in there. And that is where, of course, we meet the other role that Mel Brooks plays in Spaceballs.
Yogurt.
The great and powerful Yogurt. Which it's a pretty fun role. It's doing that dwarf dude on his knees with shoes thing. Some pretty decent, like, shimmery copper makeup, actually.
It probably really sucked having that put on and taken.
Oh, I am sure that he tried to reduce those shooting days to as few as possible.
I would imagine. But he also got to introduce us to all the really fun things like Spaceball the cereal, Spaceballs the flamethrower.
This movie does a great job of consistently breaking the fourth wall.
The kids love this.
It's some really nice fourth wall breaking. The general, like, the awareness of itself as a movie, which then carries on throughout the film from there on. You see the Spaceballs merchandise actually displayed in the movie. But just there are some great fourth wall breaking moments just scattered all the way throughout.
Spaceballs the movie was one of the best.
Having Spaceballs the movie in the movie, the now section of that whole gag.
They're out in the stores before the movie's even finished.
The camera zoom that for some reason people suddenly notice and get out of the way from, and then it hits him in the face. There's a beautiful one during the final Schwartz battle when they just the Schwartzing goes too far out of frame and they accidentally hack a cameraman and then they sort of quickly pan back. Like, there's some great gags in there, and they're not even that obtrusive, and they feel sort of almost natural.
Well, and the response to that whole cutting the cameraman in half was fantastic too, where Dark Helm was like, he did it.
He did it.
It's so good. I mean, everything about this movie they processed in the right way.
And like I was saying, I'm very happy that so much of it, like, still plays, and I feel like I can tell, a 25-year-old at work, like, oh, you should check it out. It's, like, you like Star Wars, you should check this out. It's a funny parody, and not have to be like, oh, but watch out for all of the terrible racist shit that's going to happen. Or, I don't feel like I have to offer a lot of, like, trigger warnings before I say, oh, you should check out Spaceballs.
Yeah, no, that was also one of the things. I can't honestly remember if I watched all of it yet or not, but History of the World Part 2, when that series came out, I've enjoyed what I've seen of it.
Yeah.
If I haven't seen all of it, or if I fell asleep like I did watching Spaceballs last night.
It happens.
The whole thing when that was getting ready to be released, I was like, oh geez, Mel's in his 90s. Mel already was pushing the envelope a little bit on some stuff.
Yeah.
He's not completely in control of it, so maybe somebody's going to rein him back. But I mean, this could go one of two ways.
Well, once I saw who was going to be, I felt pretty confident.
Yeah, and it could have gone bad.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But it didn't, at least not what I saw.
No, I feel like the people who were, like, the largest group of, like, writers / recurring roles on History of the World Part 2 were people who really loved and respected Mel Brooks and would definitely, like, want to make sure that if they were involved in continuing that legacy, it was going to be, like, worth preserving.
Yeah, not oh, now you're an old man and you just did some real bad stuff,
Yeah,
old man.
yeah. But honestly, like I think he's a smart guy. Like I
Oh
don't
yeah.
like yeah, he's obviously like probably doesn't have his finger on the pulse, the way he used to, but like I think he understands that the world changes and I think he's willing to change with it in a way that some of his contemporaries perhaps have not been.
No, and honestly, one of the reasons that I thought that there might be a little bit of hope for it in from his perspective was a ad that I saw during the middle of like COVID time stuff where it's one of Mel Brooks's kids being like, "Hey, we're in the middle of a pandemic here. Look, that's my dad, Mel Brooks. He's standing inside the house. I'm staying out here. I'm not going to go in there. And it's not about me, it's about him. Because I could get infected and I could give it to somebody his age and they could die."
Right.
And he's like, you get it. You're doing well on it, guy.
Nice.
You,
Nice.
I appreciate the fact that he is an old people who's not about this is all my shit. Fuck you.
Yes, exactly.
You're ruining my ability to do my old people business.
No, he seems to actually still have a sense of humor.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you kind of knew. I mean, I feel like Anne Bancroft wouldn't have married him and stayed married to him for 1,000,000 years if he wasn't like a pretty cool guy.
Yeah.
Because she seems like a pretty cool guy.
It's true. And, he said when he met her, "I'm pretty sure you're going to be my wife." And she's like, "Okay."
Oh, yeah, he's there. The last time I saw them do a thing together, there was a season. Did you ever see Curb Your Enthusiasm?
Not a bit.
With Larry David. It's a funny show. It's one of those like incredibly awkward comedies that it causes like physical discomfort to watch, even though it's super funny. There's a season of that show which contrives to have Larry David take on the Zero Mostel role in the Broadway production of the musical of The Producers, which turns out to be a long game version of The Producers itself, in which Mel Brooks and Anne Bancroft are trying to tank this production of The Producers. And so they actually recreate those scenes together, which was beautiful to see, of them mourning the loss of their beautiful scheme as it turned out to be a hit.
I really loved that movie. I like both of them, honestly. I thought that they were highly entertaining.
I tried to watch the musical version movie, and I couldn't really get through it.
Yeah.
I really had a hard time accepting Matthew Broderick in that movie.
Gene
what? Wilder is so perfect.
He is, but you can throw out the entire Matthew Broderick one, aside from Will Ferrell's "Springtime for Hitler" in Germany.
Yeah, but see, I hate
grand.
him with I hate him so much.
He's terrible. I absolutely despise him, but I enjoyed that.
I just hate him so much. I don't know if I could do it. Like, I just want to just throttle him to death every time. Because
he's a terrible person.
I assume he must be, or else I wouldn't have that innate response. I have had more than one dream in which I killed Will Ferrell. And I don't know why. Like, I don't know why I hate him so much. I've never watched a Will Ferrell movie. I quit watching Saturday Night Live when he joined the cast because he's gross. He's just fucking gross. And a couple of times I saw him interviewed as a guest on Late Night with Conan O'Brien, and that just cemented it for me that he just there is no place for Will Ferrell. And no.
So we're gonna watch Elf next.
Bill just said, so we're going to watch Elf next. Because I guess he hates me.
You know what? He was also good in Zoolander.
I saw Zoolander once a long time ago, and I kind of remember that.
See, most of Zoolander, usually when I've seen it, which is 2 or 3 times, it's funny, but I hate the people who really like it.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
That's
sort of how I felt about The Princess Bride when I was in college, was that I mean, I enjoyed The Princess Bride. It's a good movie.
Yeah.
But the people who really love The Princess Bride are really scary people.
Yeah.
I don't want to be around the people who just are super into The Princess Bride. They're weird.
I think that The Princess Bride is a fantastic movie that should never ever be remade by dumb people who keep trying to remake movies. And I love the sword fight scene.
It's a very good movie, and that is a very good scene. Overall, that's a pretty kick-ass movie.
Yeah, but that's about it. I mean, I like it. I watch it every once in a while because it's good, but it's not.
There were a number of people that I encountered in college who, it was as if they had imprinted some sort of it was like the romantic structure of The Princess Bride, like that somehow really deeply affected their identity and their ideas about
six-fingered men,
or I think mostly love. It was weird. Like, people who, I don't know. I mean, I'm someone who is super into a lot of specific movies, but I feel like for the most part, they don't cloud the way I see the world, in a way that it's no longer reflecting reality as the rest of people would recognize it. And I there are some movies like The Princess Bride where I think they're and The Matrix. Good God, people who are super into The Matrix. Wow.
You know,
I don't know if I've ever known anyone who was equally into both of those movies, but I bet it's Will Ferrell.
It could be. The first Matrix was fun. Then they all got very bad.
The first Matrix was okay, but it was also even in the moment that it was becoming a thing, there were already way too many people who were way too into it when it had only been in the theater for 3 weeks. And when I finally saw it, I'm like, this just looks like every Hong Kong movie and video game that I have seen for 15 years. And I didn't understand why people were reacting as though it was something new and / or innovative. Plus, you can't extract more energy from a thing than is in that thing. And so the whole fucking concept is stupid.
I can't remember. I don't remember if I was listening to a podcast or reading an article or whichever one it was, but what's their last name? The directors, writers,
Wachowski.
Yeah, the Wachowskis. They
Something
had
like that.
Initially had the reason that they were keeping the humans as a different thing than a battery source, but I don't remember what that was.
Was it even dumber?
What, Emily? Data storage. That's it. Data storage in the brain.
That at least makes more sense.
Yeah, but they screen tested it and people were like, what? And so they changed it.
They change it to something dumber to please people who were too dumb.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, but the
fiscally,
initial,
that was probably the right decision.
yeah, the
Which is
initial
too bad.
idea was, yeah, there's a lot of brain space that you can store a lot of data in, and people are dumb and they don't use much of their brain all the time, especially if
Right,
you just
sure.
keep them asleep. So yeah, that was a lot
I
smarter.
mean, I don't think it's
than-
probably better than like using crystals as storage, but you know, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but this is a fuck you to humanity. Come on, they don't even need to use people for it. Why don't they have a bunch of dogs in there and a bunch of everybody else is in there? Why not? Come on, if you're gonna decide to like, crystals are smarter, way smarter.
there are
then you don't have to
multiple
worry about like
flaws.
liquefying things and squishing it into their guts and then cleaning out their liquid gut stuff that comes out later. I mean, honestly, who wants to have that many people to take care of? I mean, having just a couple of people that are on life support are hard.
If they had just said that they hated people and wanted to do this to be dicks, like that would have been a way more acceptable explanation for what was happening.
Yeah. Rather than like, and the concept of making it a great place for them to live, why aren't they just like making it hell?
Yeah, I mean,
them.
there would have been more interesting ways to go with that, but I kind of I saw that and I kind of hated it instantly, and I knew that it was going to be one of those things that was just going to persist. At least it kind of like people started dressing like Neo instead of the Crow, so at least that was sort of an improvement, I guess, because I was tired of seeing everybody dress as the Crow. And those are the same people. The people who dressed as the Crow became the people who dressed as Neo.
Well, hey, at least one of them was wearing boots with shoelaces.
If you say so. Speaking of Spaceballs.
So anyway, they go to Yogurt and Lone Star gets a magic ring. And then they go to fight the bad guys in their giant ship that turns out to be a transformer made with a vacuum to suck out.
Kind of awesome.
The vacuum to suck out the air from planet Druidia into its vacuum bag after they learn, after threatening Princess Vespa's dad with turning her nose back into the gigantic tomahawk nose that it used to be, to get the password.
Well, because she is a Druish princess.
Yes, a Druish princess. But they needed the passcode to the air shield, which is
what was the passcode again?
One. 2
2
2 3
3
3 4
4
4 5
5
5. So the password is 1 2 3 4 5. Yes.
It's amazing. I have the same combination on my luggage.
Such a good movie.
It's actually like I like that, even though this is, a generally speaking, a very silly parody of Star Wars, it actually like it has a plot. Like it has a story that drives it along that is, dumb, but it makes sense within the world that they have created. There are stakes to it. Like it actually, I mean, it works. Like if you like write out the plot points, like it works as a story, where we have a princess who runs away from a life that is unsatisfying, and
who'd want to marry
adventure.
Prince Valium?
Prince Jim J. Bullock. And I mean, I think it's if you take away the comedy, it still hangs together as a sci-fi movie, as just if you just say what happens, and I think that's an important thing to do. and something that was lost in a lot of those popular terrible parody movies that came out in the 2000s, where it was just about doing parodies of scenes that happened in movies rather than actually telling a story that sort of makes these jokes work. Talking about like your superhero movie, your date movie, your Meet the Spartans. There's a bunch of like really fucking terrible, like in the wake of Scary Movie, just like god awful parodies of every genre that are just uninspired gags strung together. And Spaceballs works in many ways because they don't just do that.
No,
and so there are characters.
Yeah, and they do break the fourth wall, and they incorporate the wrong thing. I mean, they didn't only have a transporter joke, they also had the, hey buddy, what are you trying to do? The Vulcan nerve pinch? You got it way too high. You got to get down here where the shoulder meets the neck. Like this? Yeah.
I think the one that cracked me up the hardest the first time I saw Spaceballs is when they're being pursued and they jump through the closing doors and they get captured, and Stephen Tobolowsky is prancing around in his jack boots.
So you thought you could outwit the imperious forces of Spaceballs? Wait, you idiots! These are not them! You've captured their stunt doubles! God, such a good movie. I wish I'd actually seen it in the last 8 years.
Pretty good for a girl. That was pretty good for Rambo. Oh, Daphne Zuniga, where have you gone? She's probably on the Hallmark Channel.
Maybe. Or maybe she's hanging out with, what's her name? From
Victoria Jackson?
Yeah.
Do you think she became a lunatic?
I don't know.
I bet the Q in QAnon stands for Daphne Zuniga.
It makes perfect sense. That crafty Q. It's not in there for a reason, you know.
I mostly remember her from this and the sequel to The Fly.
I haven't seen that since I was 11.
I saw it like probably once in the last 20 years.
I saw
it's
it
her and
probably
Eric
once.
Stoltz. It's not very good.
I didn't like The Fly either.
I liked The Fly. I was like pretty into Jeff Goldblum when I saw that because he was into Buckaroo Banzai,
which is an amazing film. There was a late night with Conan O'Brien gag once about the birthday of George Washington Carver, and I believe an anniversary of whenever he invented peanut butter, which featured a white man in a lab coat in a basement being all excited about his invention, and then a black man in a tweed suit comes down the stairs, and the man in the lab coat says, "Ah, Teddy Roosevelt," to the black man in the tweed suit. He's like, "Yes, my friend, scientist George Washington Carver." And they have an exchange between one another about something. He's like, "Quick, I've invented these peanut pods. You get in that one and I'll get in this." And
nice.
It's obviously the pods from The Fly, and they get in there, do their thing, and they come out, and then it's a black man in the lab coat and the white man in the tweed suit, and he's like, look at what I've done, Theodore Roosevelt. I finally did what we needed to do. I, now, George Washington Carver, am a black man, and you, Teddy Roosevelt, are a white man. And then they both had evil sciences laughs. So, yeah, that was Conan O'Brien.
One of our best Spaceballs anecdotes.
Absolutely. So clearly relatable. Well, as we are coming to a close here, we have to explain what ends up happening in this movie.
Yes. So essentially, The Spaceball 1 has become a Mega Maid and is sucking the air out from planet Druidia. While our heroes in the space Winnebago decide to use the power of the Schwartz to reverse the switch on the vacuum cleaner and make the Mega Maid go from suck to blow. Which is another of the many highbrow jokes that you will find lurking within the runtime of Spaceballs. And I love the conceit of having the maid's little headdress be where the escape pods eject from, and so they extend out and make the Liberty spikes as the people of Spaceball 1 are evacuating, which is it's a great little 80s montage with the Spaceball song playing and the circus folk and the guy who plays the timpani and the bear all jostling for space as they are evacuating. It's a super fun montage, and of course, as we can expect, our heroes are going to escape just barely in time. Lone Star is able to deliver our princess back to planet Duridia, where she can finally marry Prince Valium the way she is meant to.
Where have you been? Oh.
And so, a lot of things happen in the last couple of minutes of this movie.
It's the truth.
The ship has exploded and the pieces are gradually shown drifting toward the surface of the planet as we intercut between what's happening with the surviving Spaceballs in the wreckage of the ship and our heroes. We have Lone Star and Barf heading off back into space, hanging out at a diner. We have the wedding is proceeding as planned, but wouldn't you know it? It turns out that Lone Star didn't take his million space bucks after all, just 248 space bucks for lunch, gas, and tolls. Now, what do you think that means?
I'm not 100% sure where that all came from.
Well, I think it means that he loves her.
Well, there's that. I was wondering if you were being like, oh, this is tied into something that I was.
No, actually, I think it always rang as really familiar to me, but I'm not actually sure what. I think it's a reference.
That's what I meant, and I thought that you knew what it was.
No, I was just hoping that somebody else would chime in.
Well, not me.
But they're hanging out at the diner, chilling, while we have that great recreation of the dinner scene from Alien. Guest starring a lookalike of Sigourney Weaver and the actual John Hurt in a pretty great little song and dance number by a Xenomorph baby.
It was pretty rad. And then they leave without eating their food because clearly that's a bad choice at that diner.
Check, please.
And then they go and they open the fortune cookie
because they're still hungry because they didn't get to eat their space soup or their space special.
Yeah, and then yogurt pops out of the fortune cookie and tells them that Lone Star's magic medallion says that he was a prince, and so now he can marry a princess. And then they open the liquid Schwartz bottle that was in the glove box, dump it into the Schwartz hole, and then they fly back.
Super fast. They leave tracks in actual space.
Space tracks. I believe the line
is that
hang on, Barf, we're gonna make space tracks.
They actually barely arrive in time to stop the wedding. And frankly, if he hadn't stopped to buy a whole new Prince outfit, it seems like they could have gotten there sooner and it wouldn't have been quite the close call that it turned out to be.
It's true. And then they got married in the short version.
Do you?
Yes.
Good. Do you?
Yes. Bye.
Good. You're married. Kiss her.
Such a good movie.
And it's romantic, and everybody lives happily ever after. And we learned
So
that
they
Barf's
say.
full name is Bartholomew.
Yes. And then we end up where the head and one arm of Mega Maid landed as the apes from Planet of the Apes are riding down the beach on their horses.
What are
And-
those things coming out of her nose?
Spaceballs.
Oh, shit. There goes the planet. It all holds up, Ted. Every
does.
single joke is perfect.
It's
What's
one of
the
best.
matter, Colonel Sanders? Chicken? It's Spaceball
Prepare
1.
ship.
She's gone to Plaid. So yeah, I kind of, one of the other reason that I picked this is because we were talking about Ghostbusters, which is a movie from the same time frame, which is perhaps remembered with similar fondness, perhaps more, which I personally, in revisiting that, do not think it holds up nearly as well as Spaceballs, and I'm kind of interested to compare that process, because I didn't have a lot to say about Spaceballs because I think it's super funny. Like, there's not that much about it that doesn't work.
They're making another Ghostbusters,
I am not surprised.
but it's also going to have Dan Aykroyd and Bill Murray.
Well, so did the last one.
Yeah, but Bill Murray, I can't. He just doesn't like doing sequels. I don't know what they did to make him come back.
I don't either. It's super weird. I don't know why he did the last one. I mean, he presumably saw the script for it. But yeah, I'm interested to go there. But I think we probably don't have much time to talk about that right now.
I think we're gonna have to finish it up.
So maybe next time. Thank you for watching Spaceballs with me, Ted.
I tried. I'll do it again.
All right, you have to catch up. I love you, Ted.
Love you too, Matt.
And next time, maybe we will bust some ghosts and earn some enemies by talking about the things that I don't like about Ghostbusters.
I like it.
Sounds like a plan.
Good night.
You have an excellent night.
You as well.
And finish watching Spaceballs.
I will.
Good night, Ted.
Good night.
Depot Devoid is hosted by Matt Fagan and Ted Fagan. Depot Devoid is not hosted by Ian Fagan because he died, and we miss him. Find us at Depot Devoid Podcast on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and all your favorite podcast platforms, or reach us at depotdevoidpodcast@gmail.com.